Um, so yeah, we were talking about emptiness last time on Monday. So one of the most difficult topics to get your head around, certainly at 6:30 in the morning. So I won't go into it too much again. But emptiness, we were saying that all objects have this what we call dependent arising. So they depend on other things, if you remember back to that. So if I've got the example of a pen, then first of all, it needs me as the experiencer to see that it's a pen, to experience it as a pen. If not, it's just a plastic object. And then the pen itself depends on all these other things, uh, from the oil it's made of to the people that designed it, their parents, etc., right down to atoms and molecules that make it up. Um, and so that means it doesn't exist independently of anything else. It's dependent on all of those separate factors, yeah, to exist as a pen, if you like. Now, that becomes more significant when we talk about the self. So in Buddhism, there's this concept called anatta, if you like, and this anatta is the thing that we take to be ourself. But the self that we imagine exists is also a dependent arising. So it's also empty of any self. This is why emptiness is so important in Buddhism, because they say our first misunderstanding is that we take the wrong thing to be the self. Yeah, we take it to be um, this physical body and then all of these things in our mind, and we assume that those things somehow make up a self. But they say what we take to be me or self, without really investigating it, it's just another dependent arising. In other words, to cut to the chase, there's no self as such. There is no Dan as such. Dan is just like an amalgam of all these little bits that I imagine if I somehow put these little bits together, I end up with Dan. But Dan is just a concept, just like the pen is a concept, and Dan is a handy label for it. So that is a massive topic. I mean, the guy could do days talking about the self as a dependent arising. The 3 minutes is more than enough at 6:30. The only problem with that is, so why is that a problem? The problem with it is that if we imagine we're something that we're not, then we spend our entire life trying to keep that thing happy and keep all the situations perfect for it. And that's what we do. We spend our entire life trying to make sure that this sort of imagined self is happy. Now, I'm not saying that we don't exist. Just like I'm not a nihilist or nihilist at all. There is definitely something that is us, but it isn't necessarily the combination of parts that we imagine it is, and that would be our first misunderstanding, or our avidya in yoga, Buddhism, and so on. So the practice today is exploring the emptiness of self, and it's called Neti. So we can crack straight on with it then. That was with the camera faffing, I went over 2 minutes. So make yourselves comfortable. I'll guide you through. Uh, Remember, this is a tricky concept this week. I've chosen emptiness, so don't worry if it doesn't quite make sense. It's, some people spend half their life meditating on this. So 3 days or 3 half-hour sessions isn't suddenly going to unwind it as a mystery. Good. So once you're comfortable and settled, just give yourself a few slow breaths just to ground yourself down. You might be still chewing over what I've just said. Or you might be chewing over something else that's happened yesterday or something you've got to do today. You just find yourself tangled up in mind stuff. So just see that that's there, see that's present, come back to your anchor, whatever your anchor might be. And like I said, this practice is called Neti. And Neti is a thorough investigation to see if we can find what we aren't really, rather than what we are at the start. And by a process of elimination, we sort of end up with what we must be. So Neti means not this, not this. Literally like you're checking through and you're going, no, I'm not this. No, I'm not this. So we start with the physical body. So just notice how your body's feeling this morning, all of the sensations that you're carrying, feelings, pains. A massive cocktail of experiences. Just take a moment to be aware of that physical body. And that all you know of it is your experience of it right now. You might be overlaying a picture or a memory of hands and feet and face and eyes and ears in the places that you think you feel various sensations. But that is just a memory or a faculty of mind, just a thought. If you rest directly with what you're experiencing, the sensations you're experiencing, even the pains, none of those actually have a shape to them as such. If you sense a pain in your back, your thoughts superimpose the idea of the back there from memory. But when you investigate the pain, it's just experience. It's hard to give it any location outside of thinking. So go to the more subtle sensation than pain. Maybe go to the hands, right hand, the left hand. Just the experience of those areas. and the forearm and the left side and the right side, the elbows, the upper arms and the shoulders. Just notice that you are experiencing those sensations. Would it be fair to say that you are those sensations? We've already taken away the concept of arms and hands, and we're just with the direct feeling. But even if I somehow removed the two arms and the sensations weren't present, would you disappear in any way as the observer? Would it diminish your sense of self at all if the sensations weren't present, or if the arms and the hands weren't present? Would the observer, the knower, the experiencer still be just as complete, just as knowing? And then go to your left foot, your right foot, the left and right ankles, your lower legs, calves and shins, your knees, behind your knees, thighs, hips, buttocks. And again, first of all, see if you can just drop the images, the concept of feet, legs, hips, because that's not your experience of them right now. That's just a thought as a memory. So we can first lose the labels, the naming. And then we're just left with the pure experience of sensation. Whole mass of sensation without shape or form, constantly changing. If I even asked you to describe that sensation, it'd be very challenging. You can try now in your mind if you want, but how would you define what you're feeling? It's so fleeting. There's so much of it. So we see that this idea of legs, feet, hips is empty, if you like, because it's only us that lend them that name, that reality. And our actual experience is just sensation, or the knowing of sensation. And imagine, if you can, subtly that both legs just vanished or were taken away somehow. Nothing existed from the waist down. Even the sensations that you're experiencing below the waist just cease to exist. The important question is, would that diminish me in any way, in the self that I feel myself to be? As the observer observing sensations, either by feeling them or even as the observer looking through the eyes at what we call feet, legs, hips. Would that feeling of being present or existing, would that be diminished or reduced in any way if we suddenly cease to exist below the waist? Or would we feel just as present as we are now? We come to the belly, the tummy, lower back, ribs, left side of the chest and the left shoulder blade, right side of the chest and the right shoulder blade, collarbones, space between the neck and the shoulders, throat, and the neck to the base of the head. Just becoming aware of any sensations flooding through the upper body. Even the movement as you breathe, and the experience of that movement. The label breathing, or lungs, or ribs, or diaphragm, they're all just overlaid right now on our experience. That's not what we are experiencing. That's an idea or a concept from memory. And there's nothing wrong with concepts. The only problem is when we take a concept to be our reality, and it isn't, it's just a concept. So just stay directly with the sensations, directly with the experience. We've already dropped the concept or the image or the names, and we haven't vanished. And now we're just left with the sensations. And we could try to label those, but we would struggle. They're so fleeting, coming and going, changing. We wouldn't really know even how to begin labeling our experience. It's just too present. It's too variable. And imagine, if you can, that somehow your entire body from below the head just vanished, or somehow removed. All of those sensations disappeared in the blink of an eye. Would that in any way reduce the sense of being or the sense of existing? Or would you, as the observer, as the knower, still be just as present, even though those experiences had vanished from your experience? And finally, we're left with the head and the face. We so feel that we are located here, somehow trapped inside this tiny little ball balanced on our shoulders. We're not going to go to mind today, we're just staying with the body for now. But what do we know of this area? It's so rich. What do you experience now? Sounds, smells, the sight of the inside of your eyeballs or eyelids. Even that darkness is visible. You're seeing something. Taste the inside of your mouth. All these sensations of the senses in the head. So powerful. So close together that we imagine we are inside that head, or limited to that head. All the sensations of the skin on the face, and the scalp and the hair. Imagine, if that's possible, that somehow your head just vanished, along with all hearing, smelling, seeing, tasting. Would you just disappear as well? This idea of you is just a thought, but your experience of you as the witness or the observer or the knowing or the awareness, would that be reduced somehow? Would it be diminished or lessened by the loss of those experiences or those senses? Does it depend on them in any way? Is what we're really asking. And this isn't really a yes or no answer, it's a contemplation. In this practice, we're not hoping to just suddenly come up with yes or no, some sort of definitive final solution. We just contemplate. But anyway, notice your breath moving again, the experience of the breath moving. And all of the body parts that we just let go of. Let the breath just re-energize or bring them back to some sort of life. You might even start to notice that they tingle, and then subtly the names start to creep back in. Head, arms, hands, feet, legs, bum, tummy, back. Just take a couple of breaths, allow your body to start moving. You might take a nice stretch or a wiggle, rub your face. Spent such a long time letting go of our body. It's going to take a little while for it to come back again. I hope that was useful. It is just a contemplation, remember. It's something that you would return to often, and we didn't even get to the mind, contemplating the mind. We'll do that on Friday. But it's a lovely practice. It's quite a challenging one, for sure. Sorry you can't see me. I hope I will definitely sort the camera out by Friday. But
That's quite challenging and different, obviously.
yeah,
But you know, when you said about, because my mind obviously does flick in and out. When you said about imagine you had no legs, and I can remember when I was an orthopedic nurse, and there's quite a few people who'd had amputations, and they would just get up and walk, and they had no legs. So it was so ingrained in them.
Yeah.
They just felt they had legs, and then they just get out of the bed or one leg, and then they just fall. So
Yes, yeah. So that's them, obviously that's them being stuck in a concept or a memory, isn't it? The concept they've built up of what they are and who they have, etc. Like, they've, there's still just this idea that they have legs, and exactly what you say. So they're sort of believing in the concept. Their reality is the concept, not the actual direct experience of what is, which is it's a brilliant summary, Jude.
Just came came into my head.
Yeah,
Really common.
yeah,
Really common.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is a very, yeah, it's a difficult practice. Anything to do with emptiness is a very hard practice. I just thought I'd throw it out there because it's not taught very often, neti. It's more sort of in the Advaita tradition. But yeah, it's a useful one because what we're not denying we're here. We're not saying, it is not for a moment are we going we're not here. We don't. It's all a dream. That's not the point of it. All we're saying is what we take ourselves to be all the time is just like what you said. Really, is just a conditioned idea of what we are. But we could lose pretty much every part of the body. I mean, we'd have to really investigate the brain and how that's related to perception and so on. But we could lose everything from the chin down, and still we wouldn't lose our sense of existing or being or knowing. So the whole point of it really is to keep taking us back to what are we then? If I'm not the hand, if I'm not the legs, if I'm not the body, if I'm not the neck, what am I then? Because I still feel I'm very much here. Uh,
Yeah.
it's only Wednesday, Michelle. I'll have a good weekend anyway.
Is it Wednesday?
It is Wednesday, yeah. I think so. Yeah, no, it is Wednesday, yeah. But anyway, I'll leave you to mull over that one. Like I said, all these things never get caught in the details. They're just a contemplation. Uh, it's the contemplating that's important, not getting tangled in new thoughts about what does that mean, or why was that so hard, or what am I? That's just going back to thinking. So it's just, yeah, we contemplate it and then just let it go.